Welcome to the first episode of the Brave Voices podcast. With us today is Tahseen Nower Prachi, an enigma who studies in mass communication and journalism from the University of Dhaka and also works at Save the Children as a creative writer. She has been a trailblazer writing articles for the Daily Star and poems which inspire many and fuel the young. Without further ado, welcome Prachi to the first episode of the broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before starting, if you'd like to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Faiza. It's truly an honor to be a part of this amazing project that I learned from dear Faiza. I am Tahseen Nower Prachi, as Faiza said. I have completed my honors from Mass Communication Journalism, University of Dhaka. Right now, I'm pursuing my master's from the same institute in the same discipline. I have been working with the Daily Star since 2021. I started writing for their tech page, and then I also started contributing for Star Books and Literature. Then I wrote some opinion pieces, and that's that from the Daily Star. Between this journey, one of my key events of my life has been working for the Financial Express Bangladesh, where I worked as their outreach team member and the Bangla section content lead for online. And I am very happy to state that I have been their youngest section lead since they have started their online and their print version. So it was a great opportunity for me, and I will always be grateful to my seniors who thought I was capable enough to handle that. So from taking from this part, I would like to say this one line about myself. When that opportunity was given to me, I had a lot of second thoughts in my head that if I can handle this, because to someone else sitting in a distance, it may seem like, what's this job? It's easy. But to me, it was the whole world that I had to deliver every day. I had to send the articles, I had to prepare them, and I had to schedule them. So that was a responsibility that was on me. And as a running student, I was only a third year student back then. So it was a great responsibility for me as well. But then I prepared my system that no, you will be accepting whatever comes your way and you are going to make it into your way. So that's been my motto my whole life, and I have never regretted this motto throughout. So Faiza, back to you.
I believe for the audience listening, this is a very thorough introduction to who Prachi is. Truly an enigma of all sorts. Before going into the more heavier questions that we have, if we could touch on your journey so far, what ignited your passion for storytelling? What is that one thing that got you into writing or expressing your thoughts and feelings into words and such wonderfully?
So this is one question that I will never get tired answering my whole life, and I just want more and more people to actually ask me this question. So basically, what inspired me into storytelling is story reading. So I was an avid reader my whole life, my whole childhood. I have read many books. Still, it's not enough. It is never going to be enough. But when I was reading the lines, I was reading the sentences, and from when in 2007, a 9-year-old Prachi finished The Diary of a Young Girl, a translation of it, a Bengali translation. She finished the whole book and she was only 9. And when she read that translation, she could tell it's not a very good translation. Even though she had not read the original one, but she could tell it's not a good translation. But it was a book that she has kept close her entire life, and she could tell she could tell this was the defining moment of her life, and that she was going to read a lot, and one day she will dare to actually write something that will go in print. To little Prachi, it was a dream that she will get published one day, because there are many stereotypes in our society where being a writer is not the profession your parents would want you to go in firsthand. You can be a writer with what you're doing. You can be a doctor and still write. You can be an engineer and still write. That is how it is in our continent, in South Asia mostly. But I don't know what fortune had planned for me that I got into University of Dhaka, and my major was mass communication and journalism. And I was a science major student my entire life. I have never ever read a single word on humanities. I had no idea who was the greatest thinker of all time and such. But I still knew because I read. I read so many books. I read so many books that I already knew what they used to teach at humanities. I knew what they taught at, business studies. I knew a lot of things. But when I switched to humanities or social sciences, journalism, that was when my God connected the life string to what I was supposed to be, and I started writing. And a major part of what I have written so far has been anger. It has been a voice, a depressed voice that was always within me, and I wanted it to get out. And I figured that if I could put what I think, my anger, my words, my resilience, and my dreams to words, people, at least I am going to be able to see them clearly. I am going to be able to visualize them. And I started writing. It didn't make any sense, obviously, because I was a little girl. And then when I grew up, suddenly it all came together. It all started to make sense. And then I published my first article after many, many, many tries. It's not as easy as it looks. It's like my first article got pushed like 9 months due to the pandemic. And that was a very heartbreaking moment for me, because every day I'd go to the page of Financial Express Bangladesh, I'd search my name, that if it came out, and it wouldn't. So that was really heartbreaking. But eventually my first piece came out, and then the second, and then the third. And right now, within 3 to 4 years, it's not much, but I have about 110 published articles in print and in online, in magazines. So yeah, that.
That doesn't surmise what we just heard as listeners. I would like to shed light on this. I was on my way to work when I read your 100th article. I was in Borani. I was waiting for your 100th article, like many of your avid readers. And for the listeners, please look up the name Tahseen Nower Prachi, and you will see a wonderful article, a wonderful portfolio on the Daily Star and the Financial Express. Please have a read at those articles. So back to the story. I was on the road when I read your 100th article, and I will not lie. I did cry. I cried while reading it, because I have been working with you, I believe, for 4 months at that point. And reading your 100th article and connecting all the dots, like all the 99 other articles you have done and the journey so far, it was as someone who's seen you very close, it was, I believe, I was speechless to see that journey come into full circle. So while as a friend, I'm proud of you, as someone who has seen you in the society, I'm more prouder, if not amazed. Yeah.
Thank you, Faiza. These words mean the world to me. And to be honest, I write for myself, but at some point, I think it's safe to say I write for people who believe in me as well. And I have known you for, not so long, but it feels like I have known you for so long that you've acknowledged it. And it takes huge, I don't know what, a huge heart to, acknowledge all of it. And I am so happy that you are the one introducing a project like this that actually creates a space, a safe space. I know we talked about this sometimes, that what safe space actually means, and how spaces are not just safe by itself. You have to give the breathing area and all. Thank you, Faiza. It means a lot.
Likewise, Prachi, I believe hopefully having you as a mentor also for the project will be impacting a lot of women's lives, even if 1% at a time. Like, it's the baby steps that will actually make these spaces safe in actualization. Moving on to the next part, getting the Professor Sitara Parvin Award, how did it feel like? How did that achievement mark your milestones in your path and aspiration?
So the Professor Sitara Parvin Award is, if I give a little context on how and what the award works, it's like in our department, Mass Communication and Journalism, there's this award for 10 top 10 students who score the highest CGPAs in their honors or BSS exams, and they get the, a certificate, a prize money, and it's like, aggressive stuff. So this is basically when someone tops their class, they dream that I am going to get that award, because it's like one of the most prestigious awards of excellence after the Dean Awards or the other gold awards that our university provides. So for our department, it's a big deal. So when I was actually doing good in my academics. I scored a 3.82 in my BSS. I knew I was going to get it. Though there are my friends who scored a little higher than me, and I am so happy for them. But why it mattered to me to win that award and to actually be on that list of the top 3 is because when I joined the university, it was not easy because the commute was very tricky. I had to travel 2.5 hours every day just to make it to my university and then come back home. So I'd spend like 4 to 5 hours commuting. So it didn't, spare a lot of time for me to actually study. But I persisted, and then I decided that I'm going to do well. And there's this stereotype, which I'm going to be very direct about, that girls who are presentable, girls who prepare themselves to actually be somewhere, they are stereotyped as well sometimes, that they are dumb, or they focus their focus shifts somewhere, like makeup and stuff. Like, you take so much time getting ready, then how are you doing so well in your academics? And that was really,
I'd like to interrupt here for our listeners listening right now. This basically means you are the Reese Witherspoon of Legally Blonde in Bangladesh. You are not considered that intelligent, but these girls do get into Harvard and then Harvard Law School, but they're just not considered intelligent enough. Yeah, Prachi, back to you.
Yes, so that was it. That was like, it was really heartbreaking when you are not going to do that to anyone, that, because it has no value whatsoever. Like, it adds nothing, and it subtracts nothing. How you look, it is nothing. I will personally say this, that it is nothing. I have been on both sides, and it has never ever affected on how I perform. But when people stereotype you on the basis of that you have a brain, and they consider that if you look good, your brain's not weight enough, and it's very funny. So to a first year, like someone who just got into university, it was not a very nice thing to actually hear, because I've been a good student my whole life, and I know how I got there. I got there through merit. So, and there were this, some kind of bullying, some university dramas and all, which I think is very common in our continent. It happens, when we are younger, we are not educated enough, we don't unlearn stuff enough, and we bully people on that basis. So I think the key takeaway here is that we need to create safe spaces in our universities as well, so that we can actually educate how to treat women, how to not see women in that certain angle, because university is a melting pot. A lot of people are going to be in your class, and you have to adapt to them, and they also need to adapt to you. So that was something that was challenging to me, and I was very depressed for a lot of time, and I had to fight through it alone. It was not nice, and it was not pretty as well, but I decided that I'm going to work it through. I'm going to be on the list of the top 10 because that is what I do. That is what I am, made of. I am made of excellence, and I believed that I am made of excellence. I didn't need anyone to come and tell me that no, you are this, you are that. I am the person who comes out of my body and projects that you are that person and you are going to make it happen. So I have been that girl, and I think that is what being brave is. Being brave takes a huge spot where you have to look at yourself in the mirror, and you are going to be the one wiping your own tears, and you are going to say, this is it, and that is your power. Those teardrops are your power, and then you are going to wipe it. You are going to use it for a good cause. You are going to be using it on yourself, and you are not going to let it waste. That is my moment. That is how, led this 4 or 5 years in our case to the Sitara Parvin Award, and I won it, and I took the certificate home, I took the prize money home, and it actually matters to me so much more than it would have mattered if I hadn't been through this rough path at all.
That section that you mentioned about being brave, I believe at its core, bravery is standing for yourself, whatever life throws at you. It's the resilience that people have, that women have in this continent, especially, not just in the world, especially in the Asian or South Asian regions that we live in. Bravery here is not seen far and wide, but it's alive within us. And once given the platform, we yearn for the achievements, but many voices are not heard. And so hopefully through these words of resilience, we will be able to ignite some of those unheard voices around us. Thank you for answering that question so eloquently, Prachi. Moving on to the next part is a bit of insight and personal reflections that you have gathered so far into your wonderful life. Has there been a defining moment, apart from the one you mentioned, where you believe that you have had to have that exceptional bravery, or how did that shape your perspective?
I would like to mention too, if I have the time. I think
Absolutely.
I'd go brief. Okay, so the first moment that actually shifted my perspective was in 2015 when I was a participant, a scout of Bangladesh contingent in Japan for the 23rd World Scout Jamboree. So in 2015, I was a student of 10th grade, and I was a part of the Vikarnasanon School and College Scout unit. So that year, Bangladesh sent around 150 scouts to Japan, and we had like a 300 people, 300% contingent. It was a big Bangladeshi contingent, was quite large that year. So how that shifted my perspective was, I had been an introvert my whole life, and I am at times still, I think. So, but before that, I was an introvert. Like I couldn't speak to people properly. I always knew that I could. If I tried, I could speak to my friends very well. I could handle a class very well. I could do excellent assemblies and stuff. But the thing that you need to break, I didn't have an idea that what I need to break to, to be in front of anyone and speak because I want to speak because I need to speak. That moment, we all have that moment when we are burning inside, that this is my moment, I need to speak now, this is my moment, I need to raise my voice, I need to tell them that it's not okay, and I have to say something. I didn't know what that was. What was that, what do I call it? A membrane that is so delicate that I can see right through, but I don't know how to just shatter it. So that year when I visited the Jamboree, I met so many people from so many countries. It was like a dream come true moment for me. I met I made friends. I made a German friend. Her name was Kadza, and I made a Japanese friend. I made an Albanian friend. It's like a dream. So among all these friendships, we had a visit to the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum one day, and we all know about the tragedy in Hiroshima. So there we had to give out a speech on world peace. So they called people on stage, scouts. They invited scouts to say something about world peace, and they're going to hold a little something like a competition, not exactly a competition. You're just invited up there to speak on world peace. So something happened to me, and I just raised my hand, and I was not sure that they're going to pick me, because I thought everyone's going to raise their hands, everyone's going to say something, because why not? Because I am an introvert. I raised my hand, and when I looked back, no one in the room full of around 1000 people and student and scouts from 40 countries, not a single scout raised their hands. And I was like, oh no. And I am the only one who wants to speak. But slowly 3-4 more scouts raised their hands, and then we were invited up on the stage to say something, and I was the first one to go. That day I delivered a speech, an impromptu extempore speech on world peace, and I can't exactly remember every word I said. I said in this broken English, that very unclear, but I got the message through. And I remember one line in particular that I said, we don't want another Hiroshima Peace Memorial. We don't want this wonderful country to prove that how beautifully it can heal. We don't want any country to ever prove how Hiroshima has had to prove that it can rebuild, because we don't want another bombing to happen. We don't want one single bombing to happen. And if everyone in this room stands up and holds their hands, and we decide we are going to hold hands for the rest of our life, emotionally and in any other way, there won't be another Hiroshima, and this will be a piece of our resilience, a proof of our resilience. And how I know that I got the message through is because the whole auditorium just clapped, and I could feel myself tearing up, because I'd just see, the exhibition, I'd see the museum, I'd see the burnt bodies, I'd see the melted roofs, the melted glasses, and it's devastating. I have never seen anything that's more heartbreaking except for Gaza now, which I am seeing every day, and it breaks my heart in every possible way that it can be broken. And solidarity to the people of Palestine. So that was a moment in my life when I knew that I have changed, and that thing I just tore it apart. In that moment I knew it's going to be someone else returning Bangladesh. So yeah, that's like one of the something happened that day, and I can't actually explain how it is, but that was my moment of bravery, that I got up, I took the step, I showed up, and I went up on that stage. So that is how one day you decide to, change what could have been, and you make it what I did. So yeah, that's one. And another one is it's going to be very brief, because it's not actually, about us, not an epiphany. It's actually a real event when we were stuck in Sunamganj 2 years ago, 2022. And I had no option to actually be brave at that moment, because I had to save the life of 20 of my friends, and not just me. My 20 friends also had another 20 lives to save, because we were in that together, and we convinced everyone convinced me. And that moment I realized that I was a brave person. I'm going to make it out, and my friends are going to make it out. So when a crisis happens, it's very important to actually recognize who you are as a human being, and what you can endure, and what you can actually craft through this brain of yours, because at the end of the day, this is all you have. Not one of my articles were coming to save me today. But myself, I had to go out and save myself. What helped was that people knew us. And that created, a lot of, we got a lot of help, we got responses coming from left and right, and finally the army came to save us. So that actually helped, that people knew us, people knew me, people knew my friends. So that, thank you, Faiza. It's been a very long answer, I'm sorry, but
No, no, absolutely. I believe myself and my listeners have thoroughly enjoyed your not enjoyed those the harsh sad moments, but enjoyed the listening to these wonderful struggles and moments of standing up for yourself. I believe we don't hear such struggles enough, while they're in the city of millions of people of Dhaka, Bangladesh, where we are residing. I believe millions of people have billions of stories and millions of moments of bravery that we don't get to shed a light on. And in such times, I believe we can, through one-on-one discourse, those moments of bravery come to light. And so it's not taking time out of our podcast today. So no worries. Let's move on to some of the Project Brave that is the main of the podcast. We aim to create safe spaces for women, as we discussed. But based on your experience, what are the essential elements of such spaces before they are established? As someone who has, been working with Save the Children now, which is a prominent institution in our world for such activities.
so if I repeat, you want me to answer about
what are the essential elements of building safe spaces for women?
Okay, thank you so much. So to actually create a safe space, I think trust is one of the foundations of why should anyone come to us, why should anyone come to you to actually, share their vulnerabilities. And it is not actually seen a lot in our country, in South Asia, or actually in the world, because safety has been such a crucial issue now, and mental health, mental space has always been a taboo of some sorts, where not only women, everyone struggles to open up, or being brave with self. We are always there to protect our loved ones. We are always jumping into the fire to save our pet cat, pet dogs. But are we willing to save ourselves from that fire? Are we willing to step outside? And are we willing to acknowledge that I need to be saved and I need to save myself? If I do, where can I go? Who has the potential to promise me that safety? Who has the potential that I put my trust in? So I have been observing Save the Children for quite some time, because I have recently joined, and it's been an amazing experience altogether. But what I love about this organization is that it cares so much about its employees, it cares so much about its stakeholders, and it has created every possible output of accountability where it can. It listens, and it makes sure that that it listens. So that is how they are building the trust. As an example, I can say in a learning center there are just a children that cannot listen to you. Someone just got admitted to the learning center who has disabilities, who is a person with disability. They can be visually impaired, they have hearing difficulties, and such. It addresses those problems. It makes sure that the stakeholders who are actually involved in this whole process, that know how to communicate with the child, and that child can communicate with safe back. So they have also this child safeguard pocketbooks that you must keep with yourself, and there are this whole list of stuff that you can not do, and a list of stuff that you must do. So when you build this sense of accountability, when you build this sense of responsibility, then you can expect people to actually come to you that yes, I trust you, because you have shown me that if you make a mistake, you are going to own it, you're not going to cover it. That is the foundation of trust. That is the foundation of open spaces, that I can be wrong, I can make a mistake, but will you hold my mistake just as much you will hold anything good that I do. Just we see in counseling that sometimes people offer counseling to criminals. We can always say why is it necessary or as such, but when someone actually covers their sentence, and if we are not actually simulating them in their brain where the problem actually resides, there's a huge chance that they're going to do the same thing again. So that space, that holding capacity, and that sense of accountability is essential to actually build a safe space. I think that. Thank you, Faiza.
Uh, no words. Whatever answers you have been given us so far, I believe my listeners and I, we're both at a loss for words. Imagining those sentences building up in our minds within. Moving on to the next point. Utterly amazing, Prachi. Thank you so much for the answer. Moving on to
Thank
the
you for
next.
your kind words, Faiza. I am overwhelmed by your words.
We are too, I believe. As someone, as yourself, passionate about developing development communication, being in such roles, what would be your advice to us at Project Brave to use digital platforms effectively for skill building and entrepreneurship?
Okay. So, from the development communication perspective, I would like to share something from the Bangladeshi perspective, from a little project that I designed for one of my courseworks, and then I will get back to how I see or how I think Brave can incorporate. So, in 2023, I had to design a whole pilot project for one of my courses, and then I designed a project named Project Shathi, and it was on child marriage and how we can actually empower young women, from aged from about 11 to 18, on how to battle this out, how to battle this virus we have named child marriage. Bangladesh has a very shameful percentage of early child marriages still, with the 51% rate not going down, and which is a very big, very, very big problem for our country, and it needs to be tackled soon. So I saw this problem and I thought, let's start with the root level, because I am one person army can only do much, but if I actually teach young women or the little girls or the girls to fight it out themselves, that may actually impact. So I worked with 13 girls in my paternal home in Chuadanga. So these 13 girls, I designed a 3-day pilot project when they came, and I designed many activities for them. I showed them some documentaries, I showed them a movie on and some health issues, and I played some games with them, and I made them make a dream board of them, where they see themselves in 5 years, where they see themselves in 10 years, and what can they do in this 1 year to actually get close to that 5-year goal, and then what they can do for the next 10 years. So it was 3 fun-filled days, and everyone showed up. So my project there was 10. I got it through. But when I was working with the girls, what actually hit my whole thinking process is that I went there with a stereotype in my head, that these are the reasons why little girls are married away. And when I actually did some R&D there, I actually talked to the people there, the girls, their parents, and so I could finally come to the conclusion that my primary thinking of the parents, they marry their child away, is somewhat wrong. There are a lot of factors working there, and the major one is psychological. They're not groomed enough. They do not know what to do, and they do not know how actually to be something. They don't know how to dream. And I had no idea that a simple thing like not knowing how you can dream, not knowing how to make a life for yourself, how to see yourself as a person, can make you do a thing as marrying as a little child. And they're
So,
not all the child brides
I'd
are
like to
unhappy.
interrupt and ask something. So, basically, what you are saying is they are not given the power to even imagine what can be for them beyond that day or beyond that month.
They're not given the power. By whom? It's the answer is not parents. That is what surprised me. The answer is the society. The answer is the thinking. I was just awestruck to actually, see that how much we are lacking behind in our villages, where we are showing a little girl in the city that they can be anything. And we are enforcing that every day, and we are not doing 1% of that in our villages. I think what I learned from that project is we are not actually even focusing on the fact that not education, not any kind of training can excel without actually enforcing it, without, the extras that we get in the cities that are not in the villages. And we don't focus on that. A textbook is not doing anything for them because it's just words. We need to actually enforce the dreams. We need them to actually know women who are in the places, who know how to dream. And it's completely fine if someone does not wish to be someone. It is completely fine. It's also fine if they actually choose to be a housewife, a homemaker. It's totally fine as well. But what we have to make sure is that they can build their own agency. And we have to teach them to build their own agency. And we have to teach them. I'm using the word teach because we know. When we grow up, we know a lot of things. And it's our responsibility to pass that knowing to them as well because they need it. When a young girl steps out of the school and what they can only envision a TV where the soap opera is playing all day. It's fine if they watch it, it's just entertainment, but we also need to make sure that they are exposed to the culture, they're exposed to the greater dream women have seen for them. So that is what I think Project Brave can do. To build agency among these young children, these young girls, to build that agency. Getting married is not a bad thing. Getting married before, when you're supposed to get married, when it's legal, that is the bad thing. And I would never be ready to believe that if a girl child is actually wants to see a dream and they can actually say it up for themselves. In a society like Bangladesh, an economic state like Bangladesh, every household knows the importance of an extra money and they will educate their children. I have talked to the parents there. They actually want their daughters to be educated. They want their daughters to go to colleges. They want their daughters to do something, but their daughters want to get married. Their sons want to get married. Why? That is because we have failed to introduce agency. We have failed to introduce that enforcement of dream into our villages. We have failed to actually introduce role models, stories, and build agency. And that is what we are lacking. And I think Project Brave can really come forward into introducing these little girls, these young children, these young people, these women, to know what it means to dream. And if your dream is to be a homemaker in future, let it be an informed dream, that you know the pros and cons of it. And then you decide whatever you want for yourself. Let it be your decision, not something society has told you.
And I completely agree with you on that point. Reflecting to the line that you mentioned that it should be an informed dream. When I was first asked about this project, the early stages of getting into the Women into Your Mentorship, I came up with the pitch at the point, but it has been a dream within me for the past 13 years. But the pitch was on that point because I didn't give that energy to that thought, to that dream. Because to me, it was that I didn't get that support for many of the major milestones in life. Who's going to support this dream? But when my interviewer asked me, what is that one project that fuels you, keeps you up at night? And so when I answered that I want to build something for women, that no matter what they end up doing, it should be from their own volition and something that they are proud of doing and can present themselves regardless of what society has set them up for. And so having someone as like-minded as us today in this podcast means the world to us, Prachi. Your answer gives us that power to strive for that 1% of change, because with that 1% we can aim for the next one and the 98 other percentages of change. Well, it changes
Thank you,
something
Faiza. That makes me so happy.
and it's that one small step of change that we can only achieve for, because we have seen even building platforms have not done much in a world where children are dying every single day of genocide, where something called where a powerful country or first world country can threat some other country with the power of nuclear with the nuclear power or the nuclear prowess. We have not built enough agencies in our world that addresses these not little, this huge, what can I say? These huge barriers that we have built, that these pre-notions that we have built for women. There are not enough agencies that address that. We are just waiting for the next money, that next power that we can get. So with that epiphany, moving on to one of the last sections of our podcast is the future vision and the call to action that we all dream for. Recently, Bangladesh went through a huge milestone of toppling its not getting not being political, but toppling a huge power that has been ruling the country for the past 16 years or so, and bringing forth the power of youth into the country, a breath of fresh air. With that, all that in mind, and Bangladesh being at the crossroads of culture, tradition, and rapid modernization, what do you see the biggest challenge of women in the next 10 years in Bangladesh?
I think the challenges of women have not, changed whatsoever since the suffrage. And I know I may sound very controversial now, because me being able to speak here and you being able to, host this is going to be a problem for a lot of people in the country, because they still believe that women belong in the kitchen, women belong in the homes, and you are going to see and listen to these from men who are in universities, men who are, are fathers of 3 daughters, and that is what has been the problem whatsoever, and it's going to be a problem in the next 10 years as well. But when we say specifically, I would like to point out to the inequalities that are still very much present in our empowerment or the concept of empowerment of women in Bangladesh. And that is, when we think about empowerment, we are not only talking about when we get to, address people or so, not political, not, business oriented, not corporate. Empowerment begins from that garment worker who works unbelievable shifts so that they can feed their families, so that they can actually earn their own bread. And that is propelling our country to being one of the biggest RMG suppliers in the world. So that is where empowerment actually begins, and that is what we are not ready to acknowledge as empowerment, because they're still very poorly paid. And when we are suppressing those women, the actual stakeholders of how and why Bangladesh is actually propelling in economic sector, is when we fail to acknowledge these women, their dreams, what they have to say, and if they are actually equally paid. If I tell you that the tea workers in our country are still paid less than half of what the men are paid, though they do almost double work. Do you get this conversation a lot? Do you hear this conversation a lot? No,
No,
because
we
to
don't. We get
the broad population,
yes, we listen about the profits of the big pharma coming up. Just today, I heard that one gastric medicine,
Sargel,
Sergel, one of the more commonly heard names of our households, has crossed 1,000 crores in sales, and it has come up on my LinkedIn feed, I think, almost 3 times today. But I don't see that equal pay being celebrated. I don't see these barriers being closed much, but the profits been celebrated more.
that is what I was actually trying to say. Gender discrimination, gender equity, gender balance. These are the words that actually should not have existed ever. It should have been balanced. But we have to address it every single day of our life, and that is our biggest challenge. Because when we are not ready to acknowledge every kind of equality, every kind of equity that we can ensure between women, among women, and for the women, we fail every day. So we have to incorporate those women. We have to be an advocate for those women as well. For those women are actually us. They define us. They are the epitome of bravery, because they wake up every morning and they refuse to give up. We have the luxury to say no sometimes. They do not have the luxury, but still they are not acknowledged, they are not recognized. So empowerment should not only be a concept that is used in politics, only in corporate sectors or in education and such. It should be a concept that is acknowledged and that is resolved, properly paid to every kind of women, every profession, and every household.
These words, these words, while we, whatever we do, these words will come up in every conversation about women. These gender disparity or discrimination, pay gap, these words will come up. But we have, in this past decade, we have seen little to barely minimal action being done or taken against them. Even in this period of revolution in our country since August, also known as 36th July, more famously, we have seen more protests come up. Even, I believe, a vape protest was done. Protest for vape was done. So protest or the uh, action of it is taken more lightly now. People think that just shouting my opinions or shouting my wants gets me what I need. Because just because one revolution happened like that doesn't mean the rest of it will do. And through through taking these activities lightly, I believe people lose the gravity of such protests, that what can protest be. So with that being said, what can us, grassroots projects like us, Project Brave, and change makers like yourself collaborate to create lasting impact? What are the things that us do that will, result into the bigger footsteps? Or, like, for example, Greta Thunberg. Of course, she's one person, but she's building that agency for the future Greta Thunbergs or future people around the world to raise their voices against climate change, or at least try to raise their voice against climate change. how can initiatives like us and change makers like ourselves, even if we are not change makers yet, can what more we can do on our ends that will help us get these conversations rolling to the bigger stages or to people with more impact?
Okay, so I'm going to tell some of the words you just said. You said that we are not change makers yet. I strongly disagree with that line, because when you decided that you are going to work on a project that catered to what your project objective is, that is the day you made a change. That is the day you made a change, because that is the day you planned something that was not for
Then
yourself,
see
that was
the
for some.
exactly my point. See, the society has made us think in such a condition that even the thought of change in ourselves is not registered as something being changed or something that is impactful. As women, we're conditioned to think, oh, I'm supposed to be within these four walls of life or this four walls of society, and beyond that, I'm ashamed or I'm something less than what I am now. Exactly my point. We are just making our assumptions confirmed at this point. So yeah, back to you, Prachi.
Yeah. So that is what you just snatched words out of my mouth, Faiza. I have to come up with something new now. But the thing is, when you decided to do something not for yourself, but for the women out there, because you have definitely noticed some women going through a certain problem. You have noticed that there's this huge need, there's this gap that needs to be filled because there's no open space, there's this lack of breathing air. That is the day you actually made a change. And if you are going to get this message across to 5 women, that is a change, because that is going to hit the status quo. And to be honest, when I see there are lots and lots of grassroots NGOs, to be, to be exact, NGOs. I have seen a lot of NGOs in the work, and you can ask me, why have I not heard about them? Why don't we, listen and hear enough about ASA, or Grameen projects, some Grameen projects, Grameen as in the village projects. I mean, why, where are they? They are where they're supposed to be. They aimed for that one village, they aimed for that one thana, and they aimed for that one district, and they're working there. So why they don't actually come up to our eyes is because they are focusing on that specific area, and trust me, they're making an impact, and that impact may not be very visible to our eyes, but they're giving small loans, and they're helping people build houses and such. So that was their target, that they are funded by some foreign NGOs, or they get this financial donations and such, but they're making a little impact. So they're actually making changes. And when something aims to be bigger, when something aims that I'm going to incorporate the whole country in it, I'm going to incorporate the whole world in it, the beginning may be in small steps, but we have the power of social media with us to make people tap into it more. That is where Brave can, tap in. We can just disseminate what we want to say through social media. We can, it's going to be baby steps, but it is going to be there, and we are going to be very resilient about it. We need to incorporate more and more women with us. We need to incorporate young female entrepreneurs with us. There are many female entrepreneurs who are eager to work, but when they do not get enough support, enough exposure, they just, to go down, because they don't have that support. Their backbone is very, very fragile, and if we can tap into them, we can just give them the energy, we can give them the confidence, the boost, that hey, we are there with I am there, just take the next step. Even if you don't take the next step with them, one day they are going to know that if one person can believe in me, one organization can believe in me, 10 organizations will believe in me as well. That is the power that these small steps hold. So change has already been done, and now it's on Project Brave's hand, where it can actually lend its hand in, lending that confidence, just showcasing, hey, I am Faiza, I am there to listen to you, and it's going to make an impact. You are boosting my confidence, and it is going to be there with me my entire life because you put your trust in me. So you help build me my agency. I'm going to be more vocal, I'm going to be more assertive with what I say. And you are a leader already for that.
Um, I we know each other for more than a year now, I believe, through a fellowship of ours we did with the Bangladesh Women Investors Network for our listeners tuning in. But there have been very few points in life where I have cried. And I believe every time I talk with you, I have tears in my eyes because the words that you say, they impact a person so much that they are moved to tears. And uh, even the last conversation that we had for a project we pitched to a competition, you mentioned Pfizer don't cry. And you caught that sentiment right on. And I was crying, I was bawling my eyes out. But it's those little things, I believe, even something as not minute but something as words can impact a person so much. And to think that there are so many women out there who have not had that person in their life to say, oh, hey, you're doing a good job, no matter what they're doing, um, even if it's something like turning a book page, they're giving themselves the energy to study or give it whatever scale it is, they're giving themselves the power to do something. But there's no one to cheer them on. And it's through these words, through these conversations, I believe we can reach more women and at least give them um, what's the word? Give them the power, give them the bravery, the courage, or the Shahosh, the nickname of our project. Uh, we can give them the courage to move or give them the courage to make an impact. With that, we'll move on to the last question of our list. Is that how can our listeners who are tuning into this wonderful conversation for the past, I don't know, an hour or so, can connect to you, your work, and support matters that are close to your heart? And I believe some of our listeners would love to have you as a mentor if you'd like to work with Project Brave. But yeah, how can our listeners connect with you or get you as close to them as possible? Yeah, Prachi, the floor is yours.
Okay, so it's a great responsibility, I believe, that when I actually impart one word of what I know. So it would mean the world to me if anyone wants to connect with me and I can be of any help whatsoever. I will try my best. You can reach me through my Facebook profile, that is Tahseen Nower Prachi. You can just search my name and it will pop up. And you can also connect with me via LinkedIn. I am on LinkedIn, or you can mail me at nawartasin@gmail.com. And you can just email me and then I'll get back to you as fast as I can. And please introduce with Project Brave so that I can keep you in my priorities list, because I have not been using social media messengers that much. So I will definitely try to keep you on the priority list. But when I use social media, it's actually because of the projects that I'm with or the projects that I'm following. So when there's this evolution of social media usage that happens when you are very much focused on what's happening out there, and I am on that phase, what's happening out there. So I will definitely get back to you and try to be as much helpful as I can. That's all from my end.
And with that, last question that I have. If you could dream of one perfect outcome, no, sorry, last two questions. So this is the second last one. If you could dream of one perfect outcome for your work and Project Brave in the next 10 years, what would it look like?
For Project Brave and
And for your work, the projects that you are engaged with.
okay. So for Project Brave, I would definitely like a lot more women in the, the poster of the Project Brave. I would like to see real women with their stories, where they're doing their thing and they're vocal and they're advocating for themselves and they're protecting as many young girls as they can from any kind of harm. So I would like Project Brave or Shahosh to give women the courage, the bravery to be able to say no with authority and not feel ashamed, not feel judged, or not feel disappointing anyone afterwards they have uttered the word no, because the word no is a complete sentence, and I want Project Brave to advocate it as much as it can. And if I can see one woman, one tiny timid little girl growing up with the advocacy to say no to something they don't want to do and say no to injustice they see that is happening, that would be, my moment of success for Project Brave. And for my work, it's very interesting that someone with so much resilience and so much, I just made myself, sound very when I said resilience, but because trust me, that is what my, USP is. I'm very resilient, and I advocate that much about myself. Setting a life path is very important, but what I always say to anyone, and I also say to Faiza, you can't engineer it all. There are going to be bumps, there are going to be parts when you fall and you get up and fall and you get up. And in the next 10 years, I'd like to see myself at a position where I have made it into a diplomat for my country, where I'm advocating for my country. And that is why I'm into the development field, and I just hope I can make it true. Thank you, Faiza.
You're welcome. I believe myself and our avid listeners would love to see Miss Prachi making the strides on behalf of Bangladesh in one of our foreign positions that we offer in our government. With that, I would like to bring an end to the episode today. Thank you so much, Prachi, for giving your valuable time to us. And
I thought this was our second last question.
Yeah, I'm going to that actually. Thank you for reminding. You mentioned that you, from an early age on, you wanted to write or have your things published. Is that the first thing that you imagined yourself that you wanted to be when you grew up, or were there more dreams that you wish you would get the chance to explore on?
So actually, I wanted to be a writer, but then I mentioned that there's this, common stereotype not only among parents, among everyone. You can be a writer and you can be that and a writer. You can be that and a writer. So that played a huge part in my psychology as well. And I didn't want to be a writer on its own. But when I grew up, it just made my head more clear that you can be a writer. You can only be a writer, and you can be so many things within a writer. So right now I am a writer, and I cannot be more proud of it. But growing up, I really wanted to be a high commissioner for a country, that I just said, that I actually wanted to be foreign ambassador for Bangladesh. I wanted to work at the high commissions. I wanted to practice international relations and such. That being said, a diplomat. So that was my initial goal, to be a diplomat. Apart from all that, doctors, engineers, the very, very hardworking professions, and I admire them so much. And power to anyone who can actually make it true. You are very brave and you are doing an amazing job. For myself, I wanted to be a diplomat, and I am still working on that path to make it into a dream. And it's fine if I don't make it, obviously, but I will try my best.
Um,
Thank you, Faiza.
you're so welcome, Prachi. The significance, this question bears a lot of significance for us. In When we were selecting the teams, when my teammates and I we were contacting with each other, because there's so many women out there in the mentorship that we had to take interviews for or contact for the project. One of the first questions I asked everyone is, what did you want to be when you grow up? And they were so taken aback with it, because this is one of the questions you don't get asked much now. Once you reach a certain age, or like more you get more into your 20s, you don't get asked what did you want to be when you grow up, because you had already grown up by that point. And so the second question I asked them is, were you able to follow up on your dream? And they would answer with, oh, I haven't thought about that, or oh, I wasn't able, or yes, I was. These questions, these basic questions, while they are basic, they matter a lot to us, because all of us in at Brave, we had dreams or aspirations, immensely huge dreams and aspirations for 5-year, 6-year olds that we wanted to achieve. But for some reason, for lack of support or lack of aid, we had to drop those dreams and be more have more realistic dreams that changed with time. So being able, one of the key pillars of Project Brave also is able to initiate or able to actualize someone's what did you want to be when you grow up. So hopefully we'll be able to at least have a person thinking, or a person have put that energy into that thought of, oh, I wanted to be a lawyer, I should work for being a lawyer, not be like, not making pros and cons list, actually aim to be what they wanted to be. And so, on that note, thank you so much, Prachi, for your wonderful time today with Project Brave. I hopefully will have you as a mentor moving forward, and you will be able to depart more words of wisdom and your mental pearls to our attendees of our project. Thank you so much again, Prachi. Any last words that you'd like to say?
Thank you so much, Faiza. I have, like 2 or 3 lines in it. They're going to be very, simple lines, but I think it's going to, ring with what we just discussed. But before that, thank you so much for having me. I had a great time. I always like speaking, and I think I spoke to a lot of people today. So it's been a great experience. So the line that I wanted to say is that women are not inherently less capable in anything, in leadership or science or any traditional, we say, male dominated field. They can do anything if only they're given equal opportunity and respect. And that word given should not exist, in my opinion. No one can give that. At one point, it's going to be extinct. There will be no given. There will be no glass ceilings. That's why I like the Nike ad so much, that there are not going to be any glass ceilings. I don't want to be I don't want to be the first woman. I don't want to be the only woman. I want to be one of many, where it's not existing. So with that, your voice matters, our courage matters, and your courage matters when you take small steps. So start where you are, trust your worth, and never ever underestimate the power of your story. Thank you, Faiza.
Thank you so much, Prachi. Good night. Good night. It's 10:21 p.m. for us here in Bangladesh. I don't know what your time are, my dear listeners, but thank you so much for tuning with us for this wonderful first initiative of Project Brave. Hopefully, we will have more wonderful episodes. But for the first one, I believe we have hit the jackpot with Prachi as our first guest. Thank you again, Prachi. Hopefully, we will be able to create immense impact, or at least that 1% impact for someone in our lives or in our communities through Brave. Thank you again, Prachi, for your time. And with that, we end our podcast today.
Thank you, Faiza.